Okay, YouTubers. So, before I go to bed, I made a promise in my last video, which was almost an hour long, about swim baits, that I would do another video on bait hooks and some other things that I use in live bait. You get a couple add-ons to that, but this is primarily to show. I don't have all the sizes with me. Some of them are in my box in my car. So, for my bass size hooks, I only use Mustad. The reason for that is their consistency across the board is phenomenal, and I've never had a disappointment in one of their hooks. The only thing that I've had happen to these Mustads is the eyelet break, because I was trying to crimp them down more to put a snell knot on without it slipping through the little sliver in the eyelet from them curving it at their factory. So I use two different series. I have the wide gap croakers, which are for really big gizzard shad, croaker shad. There's a couple different things that people term croakers. People use them for frogs, real lizards, etc. The ones that I get are the wide gap. And then for the pure circle hooks, I get the Mustad Demon circles. They have this real pronounced curve to them that is just a little bit different. And what they do, especially with a snell knot, depending on the line diameter, they always turn and hook right here in the fish's mouth. Sometimes the bass will be over here, just they'll go sideways after a live bait. A lot of what I do is on slip bobber. I have size 5 and size 6 from HLG Outdoors Everlasting slip bobbers. This guy came up with a slip bobber that just doesn't wear out because it has a collar, brass or aluminum, depending on what run he's doing, in the bottom, and a bead machined into the top. This is a size 5. This is the one I use majority of the time. And it has that collar. See, it's a nice rolled collar. And the bead is literally right there on the top. Literally. And you can get all the way up to like 50-pound lines in this thing. But this is not meant for that size. All of his bobbers, all the way up through size 6, which is the ones that I like on my heavier rods, they all have approximately the same length tube. It's the body that changes size. They don't weigh any differently. This foam is basically that automotive bumper foam, that real lightweight, strong, dense foam. Then he has another company that makes bobbers spray all the colors. He's got a bunch of different colors, different sizes. I get them from him for two reasons. One, they flat out work. The line shoots through them no matter what weight you have on them. They always plant upright when you have the right amount of weight on them. They do not impede on a fish pulling them under, and they're very buoyant for their weight. And also because I can get 6 of these, regardless of size, for the same cost as one Phil Pro Series slip bobber. I hate Phil slip bobbers. Primary reason. Number 1, their quality control from bobber to bobber sucks. Number 2, line going through those slip bobbers takes forever. I don't know what it is that they have this plastic on the inside, but even the pros have collars on them and they still don't work like these ones. I'm not sure how he figured out how to do it. He just started out as a redneck in his garage. Now he's got a whole operation with a crew and everything. But But that's why I get these bobbers. If you do yourself any favor of any kind, if you slip bobber fish, switch. I'm telling you, I spent almost $400 in slip bobbers of various brands, including Kamal, which I actually liked. In fact, this is one of the weighted Kamals that I took the weight off of. I still don't like them as much. Even if they have that little thing in the top, they still suck. And I don't care if they're $2 for a bobber. I can get 6 of these for like $14 shipped. In fact, I got 8. I got 4 size 5s and 4 size 6s, and I spent like $17 shipped. Come on. I mean, seriously. And they work. I ran over a size 1 of these with my car accidentally. It flattened almost pancake. It still floated, and it still let the line run through perfectly. After being run over by a 3,200-pound car, okay, there's a lot you have to do to destroy these onto the hooks. Now, when I rig these, I use a rubber stop knot, not these, let's see if I can find one. Not these shithole things. I hate these fucking things, okay? They wear out over time. They get waterlogged and dry rotted, and they don't last. Eventually they start coming unraveled. I get these rubber ones on eBay for like, I think $7 for 120 of them. They go through all the guys on my rod just fine. They don't fail. You can freely pull them up and down the line. They don't burn the line like the fabric ones do. And I'll put that on first and then put the bobber on. And then I'll take a piece of line about 1.5 to 2 foot long separate. And I'll go, depending on the kind of rig I'll go from the rubber stopper, bobber, and swivel. Barrel or bearing, doesn't matter what your choice is. I get as cheap as I can because it's terminal tackle, and I've gotten up to 10-pound bass on these things, and they haven't popped. You get them at Bass Pro, but I'm going to start ordering them online as well. So I'll go from that to that other piece of line, and then depending on the rig, I'll either have another piece of line and tie any of a number of sizes of VMC's spin shot, drop shot hooks, and then have a drop shot specific weight on the bottom. Or I'll have, depending on what I'm going for, I'll have one of these 2 different types of hooks. And you see the wide gap. You see how it comes like that? I'm not really a big fan of that. It really doesn't allow the bait to move naturally. I know it's designed that way for a reason, but guess what? This one right here is a 5/0, and this one right here on these demon circles is a 7/0. See the thickness difference? Okay, let me explain something to you. I have number 1, 1/0, 2/0, 3/0, and 5/0 of these. Okay, these hooks work because they have a deep bend and they rotate in the mouth or the lip of whatever fish is on it. Okay, they take a slower, lower profile than most. The bait is still free to move if it's alive. If you hook it up dead, all the more better, because then you can hook it, rotate it through more of the body so it's sitting there in the flesh. Okay, these 7/0 are really good for catfish. I'm talking the big catfish. You see how that hook turns in? You have that in bait, it has a tendency to hold in the other side of the bait while it's moving around. Once they chomp down on these hooks in general, they just don't come off. With bait hooks, I give you a little bit of background on hooks and knots. From the slip bobber to the swivel, because 90% of my fishing is live bait now. I do a simple cinch, but I do a double. So what I do is I go through twice on the eyelet, so I have a tag end and regular line, and then In fact, I'll show you what I do. I have some 20-pound big game. I will show you. This is typically what I put either for free line or on my swim bait rods. That was really silly, considering a foot away from my hand were these. It's generally a bad idea to bite with your teeth, just so you know. Okay, so with this type of hook, I'm going to demonstrate the two knots that I do. So when I'm doing to a swivel, and I don't have a swivel with me, which is the only reason I'm doing a hook, I'll go through, okay, 1, 2, and I'll pull it tight and give myself enough tagging to work with, and take my middle finger and pull it on it. And you can support the hook with the other fingers, however you feel comfortable with it. I try to get as much purchase as I can because I can't feel my fingers. I do everything by sight and feeling of the tension in my forearms. So I found that if I go 6 or 8 turns, it weakens the knot. If I go 7, my knot's the strongest it's ever going to be. I don't know scientifically why that is. I just know that 7 wraps is what does it for me, and I've never had it fail. Okay, I don't count that first as a round. It's setting the line. I call this setting the line. So now I have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. You will notice there is a straight line. So what I will do is I will rotate over and through my thumb side of the line. Okay. And then I will go through under. It's a little bit not so easy with the heavier line, by the way. I go under and through, and you'll basically end up with this. And then I'll just start pulling down. And it's really a lot harder with this size line, by the way. Once you get into the 50-pound line, knots are really easy. So you get this really cool double stack. You see how it has kind of a double bump to it? Imagine that on 4-pound, 6-pound, 8-pound. It's a lot less pronounced than it is like this, but it's basically because of the size line that I have on here. It's already problematic because it went through that gap in the eyelet. But it'll basically cinch itself down. I have to do it from the side because of the way it did the eyelet. And it'll cinch down really tight. This isn't really that tight, but that's what I do on the swivels. I don't have any swivels with me. They're all in my car because I'm always ready to go. The one, though, that I do on the hook now, and I do not do a simple cinch on a hook anymore. I go through the back. I know there's 5,000 different types of Snells, but I just pull some tag in, okay, and I'll roll it around, and I'll pinch, I'll bring it, and pinch both with these fingers. I'll come under. I consider this my set point, okay? Now, because of the fact that this is 20-pound line, I'm only going to do it like 3 times. I typically do it 7 as well. With a Snell, the more loops, generally, the more strong the knot is because it's on more of the shank. So I will go as high as 10 for a Snell. It's a bit problematic with lighter line because it starts bunching up on itself, but I've had it successful and it's a strong knot. So I always pull it down under my thumb to keep it set. Over the hook. Now there's my 3. Now when I get to the last loop, I pull back, okay? I will hold the curve, pull. See how it's kind of doing this now? It's going to set itself when you lubricate it and pull. Heavier line is very prone to certain characteristics that I really don't like. I deal with it though because of the strength. So I will set it with these needles. So you kind of come back with this, okay? This is a little more pronounced just because of the size line, but it is a very strong knot. In fact, it's one of the strongest knots I know, and I've been fishing for 40 out of 45 of my years. So that's pretty much it. This is just 3. You know, I got my set 1 and then my 3 extra. And I've done it off of the swivel, and it won't break unless it physically breaks at the hook. Like I said, this is the 5/0. I've got all the way from number 1 through these 7s, and they go even bigger. I do not buy any hooks from a store. I do it all on eBay now. All of my line on eBay. I'm going to get into the line in a minute because I want to show you the differences in size with these other croaker hooks. But I'm going to take this line and take it off this hook first. The one thing about Snell, it doesn't bother me at all because I know how strong they are in the first place. They are really easy to take a knot out of. All you got to do is take a clip nose like this or a pair of fingernail clippers and basically just chop them along the axis, and they come right away. And it kind of works pretty good that way. So I use these more often for the smaller, the style hook in the number 1 through number 5. The bass really don't see it. The bait sits there, does what it needs to do. It's almost faultless because on a Snell, what a Snell does is it pulls backwards when it gets hit, and it turns the hook into the mouth, and it also rotates almost automatically up. I'm not exactly sure why it does that. I don't know what the physics behind that are, but this particular hook does it more than the others. The croaker ones, these ones, they have a tendency to turn just kind of sideways. I think it's because of the apex of this particular curve. I really don't like this style. It works, but it's more suited for very large scale live bait. This one is 1/0, 2, 3, and 4. I do not have through 8 or 9 like they go for regular freshwater, but they work really good, and I'll do them on the one size above this for slip over. It allows that bait fish to move all over the place, and that's really what they like to see anyway. So there's that with the hooks and the slip overs. Like I said, it's the only brand you ever have to buy. Find them on HLG Outdoors. You will not regret it, okay? So, as far as lines, separate from the live bait, I primarily use trailing big game in 12 to 20 for my light swim bait and crankbait type spinner baits, etc. When it comes to my heavier, I go and switch to Cast King, which is a Chinese company, the fluoro coat, because it has a negative buoyancy. It sinks really well, and I want the buoyancy of the swim bait to do the action. This happens to be 30 pound. It's what I've got on my musky rod, which is what I use for swim bait. lighter lines. I happen to have an affection for 4-pound. I find that 4-pound serves me pretty good in that it has a decent break strength for most of the ultralight stuff that I do, and it's not obtrusive in the water. It sinks very well through the slip bobbers. For the ultralight that I use on my girlfriend's, gone up to 6-pound. I have McCoy's Marine Green on there in 6-pound right now, but I also picked up this 6-pound. It's 300 meters, which I think is 900 something feet. And you see how small the packaging is. I mean, I got a size 12 hand basically, and it's very small. But the line itself, it's deceptive because you can see through the bottom of the reel, but there's actually 900 feet on there, which is amazing. They package all of their lines, no matter how bulk spools are, in these small things. I've gotten all the way from a 250 of 4-pound in this to this, and it really is just kind of cool how they do it. Really, there is a technique to closing these, by the way, as you can see me struggling with it. The primary one that I've got now for my 4-pound, I've been searching through a lot of them. I'm using Silver Thread Excalibur right now. It is a copolymer. This is a 3,000 yard box. I like master spools because I have different size reels that I use the same pound line on. And I hate having like a 250 or 330 yard something spool, and all of a sudden I've got 20 or 30 yards left and I have nothing to do with it. It's usually what ends up being my smaller lines for when I do drop shots and whatnot. But I hate having that. All these different boxes laying around, it sucks. So, I have a little device that suction cups to the table, and I roll them on like that now. It's way easier than saying, hey, Bear, my girlfriend, can you hold this while I do this? Because who wants to hold something for somebody with a pencil and do it old school? It sucks, it burns your hands, it's not cool. But yeah, that's pretty much the bait hook styles in the slip bobbers. You'd be amazed. I mean, this is a 5/0, and I've put anything from a 1.5 inch gill up to a 5 on this, and floated it on this number 5 ESB. The number 6s work a little better, obviously, with bigger bait. But when they're allowed to move around like that, and this bobber, just every move in the water is translated. You cannot miss what it's doing in the water. Your catch rate is way higher because you're able to tell exactly what the fish is doing. And, bass in certain waters act different than other ones in other waters. I don't know why that is, but they do. It's just kind of the way it is. So, mustads, wide gap croakers for large scale light bait, demon circles from mustad for smaller live bait to medium live bait. Number 1 through 7/0 for catfish on the demon circles, and 1/0 through 5/0, 6, 7 if you want, on the croaker wide gaps. If you're using bait that big, they have bigger for saltwater. I'm not going to get into any fish that's that big. I mean, I can get a 50-pound flathead on this hook. So, I'm covered no matter what. I've got strong lines and everything else. But I go all the way from ultralight all the way through super heavy. So, I have to be prepared in that way, and that's what I use for that. But this right here, this 3,000 yard spool, master spool of Silver Thread in 4-pound, it was $25 on eBay. I got 7 packs of these croaker hooks for like $15. A pack of these is like 6 at Bass Pro all day long. It's ridiculous what you spend at the store. I got a whole bunch of these mustads. I think I got like 6 packs. There were like 4 of the 3/0 alone. one pack of the 7/0. Actually, I think it was 8 packs because I had a couple of 2s and 3s as well. For like $20, I mean, you can't go wrong. Think about it. When you have 10, okay, 10 for $6, think about how much that is per hook. It adds up quickly. That's why I buy in bulk. I'm not going to fuck around when it comes to getting equipped. All I use with these ESBs, no matter what size of these hooks I use, above the swivel is a number 5 split shot. And then about 3 inches away from the hook, I have a couple of one BB number 1 size iron core shots. That's it. And the only reason those iron cores are on there is when I throw this rig, it has to have a certain amount of velocity with the line that's out in front of the bobber for it not to get wrapped in the bobber. It's the only reason that's on there. Those fish, they still swim plenty good when they're in the water, and they get hammered. So, don't buy in the stores when it comes to hooks and weights and bobbers. Go online, you save a ton of money, I'm telling you right now. It's ridiculous how much you save.